things are often said on Facebook and different social media. So what we're doing is we're trying to come up with solutions to make our city better. Me, I am an educator, have been for 18 years. So law enforcement and public safety is not my area of expertise. So that's why we've invited our local law enforcement, Chief Coleman from the Centerpoint Fire District, and our contract deputies that serve our city, because they will provide the information that we will need to move our city forward. So this first meeting that we're having as it relates to public safety is just so that our residents can address their concerns and ask questions. Because I think a lot of what happens is there's a lot of lack of communication. And if you don't know, then you just assume and go by what you see. So I just want to allow this time for our law enforcement officials to speak and just provide a bit of information about what it is that they do, what they see for our city, and what we can do moving forward to make it better. And then I'm also going to allow an opportunity for our residents to ask questions and voice concerns. And my hope is that when we meet on next month, that we can come back with some kind of solutions and some kind of blueprint for moving forward. So first up, I'm going to have our mayor, Bobby Scott, come forward. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thank you all for coming out today. Special thanks to Sheriff Petway for getting all of his guys out. We really appreciate the time you guys took to come out here with us. Thanks for Chief Coleman always being there when we need him. And thanks to our residents for coming out and participating. We, like Councilwoman Moore said, we are new council, a new mayor. So one of our main issues that we ran on during the elections was public safety and how we would make changes or work with Jefferson County or whatever the case may be that we needed to do to increase the safety and quality of life in Centerpoint. So we're glad to have you guys out. We're gonna, Ms. Moore, who comes up next? Who's after me?
We're going to go with Chief Coleman.
Chief Coleman. So we're gonna ask Chief Coleman to come up. He always has some really, really good words of wisdom. But if you have any questions, please, kind of hold your questions and we'll get around to getting those done. This is more or less gonna be a listening meeting. And then we're gonna have another meeting next month where we wanna compile information to get back out to the residents. Chief Coleman.
Thank you, Ms. Moore, for inviting us out. But just briefly, we'll give you an overview of the last year for us. Was the busiest year in the fire department's history. We made over 10,000 calls to the citizens of the fire district. Fire Station 1 approximately made about 4,200 calls, which is about 42%. That's the one on the Parkway. All four of your fire stations support the city of Centerpoint, the one in Clay, the one in Chalkville, and the one in Pinson. We all work together. And then our partners beside us, Palmerdale, Tarrant, Trustful, Fultondale, the ones that all, and the city of Birmingham support us, and we support them as a team effort. But most importantly, our Jefferson County sheriffs are with us on most of our calls, backing us up or making sure the scene is secure before we go in to ensure the safety of our responders. But overall, we only had about 3% fires, about 62% were emergency medical calls. Service calls to help the disabled in and out of the house or for unusual circumstances was about 17%. And we do have about 7 or 8% on false alarms. And then good intent calls where someone calls us and thinks they may need us, or it was more of a police activity versus a fire activity, or is what that's classified as. There were a few ruptures, pipeline ruptures and things like that, but overall, most of our calls each day are emergency medical calls. About 30 a day, and we transport most of our patients to St. Vincent's East because it's the closest hospital. But depending on your type of injury or a medical problem, you may be routed to a different hospital. Right now in Jefferson County, most of our hospitals are at capacity. There's a thing called diversion, where if you ask to go to a hospital, we verify the status of that hospital before we start rolling that way to make sure that there's room in the inn. And sometimes there's not, and they'll recommend that we go to another hospital, or due to the type of event you're having. If you're having a heart attack, it's best to go to a hospital that has a cardiac surgeon available, or a cath lab, or a trauma surgeon if you've been involved in a traffic accident or something of that nature. But most definitely it's busy. But the biggest thing is I can encourage you to make your home safe. The fire district received a grant last year where we can put smoke detectors in any structure, any residential structure. We've got information on the back table here, and we'll leave it with City Hall where they can get it out on social media. But you call our office and we'll come in and install a smoke detector in your home. It's part of my slogan, keep a beat where you sleep, close the door where you snore. 911 is our number, and we make house calls. But if you have a working smoke detector in your home and you close your bedroom door, you have a greater chance of survival. Of course, if you call 911, especially with the things right now where they can tell where you are on your cell phone, or the information comes up that says you have a disability in your home, or we've been there before on types of calls, they can provide us more information. Fortunately, we have a great relationship with the Jefferson County 911. The Chief of Operations, Lee Gaither, is here with us tonight, and he can possibly explain some more services that are available. Some of the other things that we do, of course, is CPR classes the third Thursday of every month. Chief Ward in the back here, he coordinates our emergency medical services program. He coordinates EMS, or emergency medical services education, across the state of Alabama. If you're a nurse and need continuing education, the second and fourth Wednesdays of each month at 9 a.m., you can log on to our website or to the Facebook page and click on that, and we'll provide you free continuing education that's certified by the Board of Nursing in the state of Alabama at no charge. And then you can do it from your home. A lot easier there. Speaking next of COVID, COVID's been a big issue for us as far as the fire department making responses. Some of the things that we put in place, and some people may not understand, is if we can get you in an area with more air around you, the less chance of exposure for our members. So if you call 911, the 911 operator will ask you to step outside or go to an area where there's more air. Our people will only approach you with one person compared to the team of 4 that we normally send to evaluate and triage the situation. And then the appropriate care will be administered, and if you need to go to the hospital, we do that. Probably about 3,300 times last year, we transported patients to the hospital in 3 of our different transport units with advanced level care. That through the Jefferson County Commission and CARES program, we were fortunate enough to receive about $300,000 worth of equipment. The cardiac monitor life packs that we defibrillate people and look for cardiac problems were provided through that program. And they also monitor your oxygen, your CO2, your blood pressure, your temperature. So it's very, very expensive pieces of equipment. But the newest piece is sort of helping us out more. Unfortunately, your fire departments, like most fire departments across the country, is we just don't have enough staffing. You get a cardiac arrest, and we try to manage that in sort of like a NASCAR pit crew, where you put people around them. Everybody's got a specific assignment. Well, we've got this new piece of equipment that some of our sheriff's deputies are getting in their patrol cars, which is called a Lucas device. That does CPR for you. So it takes 2 of our normal players and puts them on the sideline where they can jump in and do other procedures, and does CPR most efficiently. It gives a greater chance of survival. And Chief Ward, if you can comment briefly from where you are, our rates are going up as far as what we call ROS, which is return of spontaneous circulation. And that's just great for the chance of survival. We don't control life or death, but hopefully we have the tools to hopefully enhance the chance of survival. As far as COVID also, if you can get a vaccination, we strongly recommend it. It's out there and it's affecting people every day. We've seen it in our extended care facilities, our nursing homes where several people are going to the hospital, and our routine calls that we're going to. But the prevention is the biggest thing. If you got a mask, wear it. Wash your hands. Stay out of large groups. From that standpoint, we can prevent this and hopefully treat it with COVID, with the vaccinations. If you need more information on the vaccinations, of course, you can go to the Jefferson County Emergency Management's website, jeffcoema.org, and there's a green button on there that says COVID-19. And if you're over the age of 75 or a healthcare provider, you can sign up for that vaccination right there, and then they can schedule you an appointment. It's a lot quicker than the telephone number that they've given out here recently. The other part of Jeffco EMA is a program that called Everbridge. Everbridge is a notification system where if there's an event within your community or in the area that you're at, we can circle that and identify it and send a warning or a message out to you. Also, standard alerts, sort of like the Polygon that our local weather forecasters use. If there's a tornado warning in your area, it'll hit all your devices. It'll send you a text message, an email, call your phone. Some of us in public safety get way too many of those just with what's going on, but it keeps us informed of what's going on in our community. Jefferson County EMA covers that. But Centerpoint Fire is here to serve you. Like I say, the smoke detectors are there. We've got several pieces of literature here for anybody that's here to carry with you. We'll leave those with City Hall as well. And I'd encourage you to have that working smoke detector in your home. It'll make the biggest difference. Thank you. Ms. Moore?
Thank you, Chief Coleman. Next, I will have Director Weatherly come up. I first talked to him about 2 months ago, right after we were sworn in. And I gained a lot of information from just speaking with him that I didn't realize as a resident. He had a lot of great tips. He was very insightful and helped me to look at things in a whole different manner than I looked at them just as being a resident. Yes, I'm on the council, but I'm a resident first. And so hopefully you'll gain a lot from his, you'll gain a lot as well once you hear him speak. I think, how many years have you been with the city, Director Etherly?
July, like 7 years.
7 years. So he knows the ins and outs of our community. He knows a lot of residents. He actually gets in the community, and that's exactly what we need. So, Director Weatherly.
How's everybody doing? That's good. I'm gonna be very brief. I know some that are here I've met in other community meetings, but my first question is, this is your first time as a resident with the city attending a meeting? If you could just either raise your hand or, okay. All right. And everybody else, I'm assuming, is repeaters, I guess. What I want to encourage you all to do is come more, but don't just do this one. Each individual community within the city of Centerpoint has their own community watch meetings as well. We're working now to try to figure out a way to get it to where you all can, I guess you could say, integrate or be able to communicate with each other as far as for communities of what's going on in your area. Some of the things I've noticed and seen since being here is we just don't communicate. That is the biggest thing. If we can fix the communication problem, that'll help us be able to deter and change a lot of things that's going on as far as for crime and even businesses. How many people really shop in the city of Centerpoint that lives here? I thank you. If we can encourage our neighbors to do the same, that would also help us. That is a source for the city. It's revenue. The more you shop there and encourage other people to shop there, those stores can get more, can expand, do different things, gives the city opportunity to bring in things as well. Right now, the biggest thing, like I said, I can really preach is just participation. Last administration was the last administration, And people had their views about that. This is a new administration. Give this administration an opportunity. Like Councilwoman Moore said, they've only been here, well, actually it'd be 3 months or 2 still. 2? Wow. 2 months. I'm giving them time. Give them time to really listen to you as well, but don't come with the same attitude as you did previously. Everything changes, everything's evolving. So as it evolves, we need you to evolve with it as well. So don't think just because what you said maybe last year or a couple months ago is going to fall on deaf ears if you repeat it now. Repeating it now actually helps us understand what's going on. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to our Sheriff Mark Petway. I'm gonna turn it over to our Sheriff Mark Petway. Give me just one moment. I understand what you're doing. But like I said, we want to use this as an opportunity. I want him to just introduce himself, and if he sits back down, this is not about us giving you stats just to feed you. We want to hear. We want to use this opportunity for you to be able to get up, speak your voice, ask your questions, but don't expect a response right then and there. Give us time to do the thorough research that we want to do to give you an accurate answer. Not just something that's going to feed you and you walk away and then tomorrow the same thing happened and you say, well, yesterday this is what they said. That's not what we want. We want to be able to fix the problem to where we can hear what you're saying and give you that power because this is your city. You live here, you work here. Some people, I hear it every day. I've been here 30 years. I've been here 60 years. I ain't going nowhere. And then I asked them, what have you done to help impact the city? Just how quiet it got just then, that's how quiet it is when I ask that question. So this is an opportunity for you to just speak, ask your questions, but all I ask is this, be respectful. If it's a heated topic, be cautious of how you present it, and then give us the opportunity to do the research for what you're asking to bring it back to you. So it's kind of like fishing. We throwing the line out there, and we hoping that you bite on and say, you know what, we're going to keep nibbling and nibble until you get the answer you want, we get you hooked. You're going to keep coming to meetings because that's what we need. All right?
Thank you, Director Weatherly, Mayor Scott, Councilor Woods, Moore. Excuse me. Thinking about my friend back there, but citizens of the city of Center Point, glad to be here with you this afternoon. This is what we look for, opportunities to engage. We want to make sure that we can always bridge that gap between law enforcement and the community. Building relationships is what it's all about. So that's what we're doing here this afternoon. I have my staff here this afternoon. I have my chief, my deputy chief, my public information officer, my captain, my lieutenant, my sergeant. We're here for you. We want you to know that our top priority is to make sure that you are safe. Your safety is our top priority. We want to make sure that you know that and you feel that as citizens here in Center Point. Now, we're going to give you an opportunity to hear from us. We have some stats and we have some things that we want to share with you. Last year was a great year. It was a great year. 2020, although we saw a lot of bad things happen last year throughout the pandemic and the protests, last year was a great year for Center Point. We have some great things we want to share with you for Center Point. But then too, there's always room for improvement. There's things that we want to improve to make better for you right here at Center Point, and we will partner with you to make those improvements. That's what we're here today, to hear from you, to find out what we can do to make improvements. But now this time, I'm going to give a way for my public information officer, Chief AG. He's going to come and give you some information about some things that's been going on in the Sheriff's Department. We want you to engage with us. We have an app. If you don't have our app, whether you have an iPhone or Android phone, you need to go out there and download our app right now so you can communicate with us. We're also have a newsletter that we produce each quarter. You need to look at our newsletter to see things that's going on right now in the sheriff's office, things that affect you, things that affect deputies in our sheriff's office. This is communication from us to you. We want you to read our quarterly newsletter. So go out there, download our app, read our newsletter. If there's information that we need to know, you can engage with us through the app or through our website, Send it to us. Information you want to remain anonymous, you will remain anonymous. Nothing will be said about who you are or how we got that information. That is how we go out there, prevent crimes and solve a lot of crimes. So engage with us through those ways of engaging, such as the app and our website. So at this time now, I'm gonna call up our Chief AG. He's gonna come and give you some information about things going on in the Sheriff's Office. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all that are here. Thank you all that are watching online. Congratulations to Mayor Scott and Councilwoman Moore on your call to service. We look forward to working with you in anything that you need. We already have a working relationship with Public Safety Director Antonio Weatherly. We want to keep that going. At this time, I would like to introduce some members of our command staff. I'm going to ask them to stand as I call their name so that you will know who they are. Chief Deputy Willie Hill. He is our Chief Deputy, has an awesome responsibility, does a great job. Deputy Chief Anthony Pippin. He is our Deputy Chief over all patrol operations. Captain John Mays, affectionately known as Pop. He is very popular with the citizens and the business owners and managers. He's basically dedicated the last 40 years of his life to the Center Point area. I work with him on patrol. He knows this area backwards and forwards. And he's someone you can truly depend on. Lieutenant Russell Starnes, I'll ask him to stand. Lieutenant Starnes, he was a business owner in the community before he came full-time service with the Sheriff's Office. And he is, when we have those crises and emergencies, he's the one who gets things done. First line supervisor, Sergeant Dana Merchant, I'll ask him to stand. He's one of our frontline supervisors, the one you will see on the news on the scene. And I'll ask two of our contract deputies, Deputy Purdue and Deputy Floyd, just to stand. They are handpicked for service to the Center Point area. And I'm sure the people love them. It's, like I said, they're handpicked, so I know they're doing good work. Last week we released a crime stats for Jefferson County, and it showed major crimes in the Center Point area down significantly in all major areas: homicides, burglaries, robberies, and assault. And that is due to the work of the deputies. That is due to the engagement of the citizens. The sheriff mentioned calling in information. That's what we act on. And I believe that has played a big part of those numbers going down. So we want to keep those numbers going down, and we want to continue to engage the community. We do have an app that you can download, the Jefferson County Sheriff. This app is very valuable. You can get alerts for emergency situations. You can check to see who's in jail. You can check the sex offenders in your area. You can submit a tip anonymously, and we live off of those tips. And when you suspect criminal activity, I mean, you can submit that information to us. We'll check it out. If it's true, then we'll put a stop to it. If it's not true, at least it was checked out. So we love to get information in through that app. We have a quarterly newsletter that comes out quarterly every 3 months, and you can sign up for that on our website. It will tell you everything that the Sheriff's Office is doing, not just in Center Point, but in all parts of the county. And it's a good way to keep informed. We did have a very good year last year. We made one of the largest drug busts in our history. We actually made a really big one in 2018, and I thought it couldn't get any bigger. And this one turned out to be $4 million. So it was twice as big. And that comes from the hard work of our Vice and Narcotics unit. And that's a lot of drugs that won't make it into people's bodies. So we're very proud of that. Also very proud of our air support units. You may hear it from time to time. We got a pilot and co-pilot that love catching criminals and love making rescues. You will hear the helicopter out from time to time. Don't always assume that it's bad news or something bad has happened. We have made a lot of rescues of people suffering from dementia or children, especially this time of year. You know, if someone is lost in the woods, the time is critical for us to find that person. The weather can really take a life. So when you hear the helicopter, it's not necessarily bad news, but it is being put to good use. So we are very happy with the numbers, and we want to continue to see them go down. And we welcome the input of our citizens at all times. Thank you all.
Okay, at this time now, do any residents have any questions or concerns that you would like to ask any of the panelists? Ms. Coran, Ms. Karansky?
I have a question to the sheriff department. I'm a new city council. What I'm trying to find out is the response time. It takes, 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting in City Hall, and no sheriff department was there. And the meeting got out of here, but no sheriff department was not at our meeting. And I was wondering what happened to that protection that was supposed to be at Center Farm with us. So that's one of the questions I have. And the next question I wanted to, of course, respond time is when something is happening in Center Farm, and you also get a call to Bradford, right? We paying for so many officers. You taking the officers that we have here, they have to go somewhere in Bradford. And then all of a sudden, I call out, and it takes 30 minutes for officers to get back to Center Park. And I'm trying to find out what caused that.
Okay, on your first question, I'll tell you what we'll do. I will get with you to get the date of that meeting to find out what happened. We're investigating to find out what happened to the deputy that you were looking for to be at the meeting. We'll investigate and we'll get back with you on that matter there. And on your second question that you asked about, as far as backing up deputies, we do back each other up as far as giving each other assistance here, whether they work anywhere within Jefferson County or if they are a neighboring agency. A lot of times we back up Birmingham, we give mutual aid also to Trustville and all other surrounding agencies here. And they may require them to leave for just a little while, but we do the same thing here for the city of Center Point. City of Center Point, so it may be multiple calls going on at one time here at Center Point. So we've had to send several deputies here to the city of Center Point to take care of those calls that are going on all at once. Maybe a fire call, it may be a medical emergency call, it may be a domestic call. So all of that may go on at once. So we send several deputies in to handle those calls, just the same as we may send somebody else to back up from here to back up another deputy or another officer. We back each other up that way. So we're not taking anything away from you. It's just for temporary, for a few minutes, and then that officer will return back to the city to complete his duties right here in the city.
Elaborate on that?
Yes, sir.
Also, I would like for it to be known that just because you see a vehicle that says Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, that doesn't mean that's the vehicle for the city of Center Point. We don't have a distinct way to say that's a Center Point car, that's a Pinson car, that's this. All we see is Jefferson County. Want you to get in the habit of understanding, just because you see a Jefferson County Sheriff's Office truck going up the parkway or going around, that doesn't mean that's a Center Point deputy. We have the substation here as well. And this is for everyone that's watching online. I need for you to get a clear understanding on knowing that, just like, you know, if you go to the city of Birmingham, you see Birmingham police, you know it's Birmingham. Well, we're in the county. So you just can't look at a car or a truck and say, hey, that's a Center Point car, that's a Pinson car. So we need to change that mindset as well. unless you can literally look at Deputy Purdue's face and say, driving that car, I know that's Deputy. You can't do that with half his cars. They got tent, so they made to keep it moving. So if we can change the aspect of that, just because they're going to help someone doesn't mean that that particular deputy is from here or Penson and they're not where they're supposed to be. Until we can physically just say, hey, we know that car, there's nothing we can, really do about that. I just want to elaborate on that. So hopefully people here and as well online can start grasping that concept of understanding, seeing those vehicles doesn't just mean that's a Central Point car or a Penson car, unless you ride around and y'all have numbers on the vehicles, correct? Unless you just know the vehicle number of whatever deputy is supposed to be there. And if you're doing that, hey, we need you to go take that test down at the personnel board, because that means you have an awesome skill, and we're gonna put you to use. Okay, appreciate it.
As far as the response time, I think what the confusion is, sometimes there's contract cars and then we have regular deputies who are assigned to this area. We have Sergeant Merchant is the sergeant over a certain shift, but we'll also have contract deputies that respond as well too. And the contract deputies, there's 6 assigned to the city of Center Point, and they work on certain schedules at the discretion of the mayor. And I believe we discussed it. We're going to probably sit down and try to adjust that and see whatever works for the city. But the cars is, as far as the contract cars that work in this area, unless it's a major call that happens in an unincorporated area, they're not going to leave the city of Center Point. Their responsibility is the city of Center Point, because we've got enough what we call beat cars that are working in unincorporated areas that are responsible for responding to that. And you'll have a primary beat car that'll respond to that area, and then they'll have backup. Now, you may, if it's a major call, and especially a call that require, and we're having a high call volume, and a call that requires multiple units, they may go that way. But especially, let me assure you that the city of Center Point gets as much attention as we can possibly give them to keeping cars in this area. The supervisor is going to make sure if you get a lot of I'll go to that, I'll go to that, I'll go to that, especially in the far out areas like Trafford. That supervisor is going to get on that radio and start calling some of those cars back to this area, because I don't want this area unprotected, especially with businesses and the density of the population and the homes in this area. So there's going to be a rare opportunity for this area to not have cars and units into it in the area. Now, as far as the call volume, we've gotten people that have said it's taken 2 hours to get the calls, and some of that may be in a misunderstanding and individual calls. It may happen that we have to look into to find out why that happened, and that may be a mistake there. We make mistakes just like everybody else, but usually it's not going to be a high priority call. As far as the call, I've got averages here as far as the response time. The city of Center Point gets usually an average of about 1 to 2 minutes quicker response time to anywhere else that we're responsible for responding to in unincorporated areas. And again, that's because of the density of the houses and how small of an area it is compared to the amount of cars that we put in here. Now, just because the city of Center Point has 6 contract cars, that doesn't mean that's the only coverage that you're getting right now. We still maintain our regular beat units out here. So you'll have a 438 out here, which is going to be your contract car. And then I'll have 4 to 5 other beats that are working out here that are working as unincorporated, but still within the city of Center Point. And they'll respond out to Penson and places like that. But the Penson and Clay and all that have their own cities, they have the same thing too. We've got a 443 that works out in Penson, a 445, 447s, and all that work out that way as well too. So whatever comes with the contract car, there's always going to be, he's not going to be the only one in the city of Center Point. And we've pulled everything out. You've got a huge amount of coverage in here. Now, through attrition, we lose people and gain people. We have to retrain people. We're doing that. I'm also the field training coordinator, and we've got, I think, an average of 6 people right now. So we're always backfilling and bringing new people in. So we have to teach them the beat. But usually Center Point, because of the density of the neighborhoods and all, that's where we usually will bring people to train them, because they usually get their call volumes in a certain period of time. I can assure you that if you have any delays in calls, you're welcome to call us. Call up to the Center Point substation, and contact me. I'm Lieutenant Starnes, and I will look into it as soon as possible and find out what the delay is. But I honestly haven't had a huge number of delays that have been reported in a while. Does that answer anybody's questions? Thank you.
Ms. Karansky, you can ask your question.
Thank you for the job you do. I've lived here 3 years, it's going on 4, I intend to be 4. And in part, it is because things are done so well here in the fire department. And I have had a few encounters with the police department. Not as a her, but as I'm a little nervous, there's a lot of guns in the room, and, so please forgive me. I consider myself untypical, and I read all the neighborhood threats, and everybody here, I read all the neighborhood threats, and that's why I consider myself typical, and the kind of concerns that I have, and the different questions that I have to know. They may seem silly, or, not very important to you, but in the daily life of a working person, they do become important. So that is why I want to take a little time with this. This is the contract. City and the there's a couple of things in here that are confusing to me, and I think it's caused other people confusion. You might see these kind of remarks on the threads. The first of these has to do with what kind of violations the deputies can enforce. What kind of violations the deputies can enforce. I see a lot of, and I have reported this, and this includes some of the things that I've reported. Barking dogs and the burning fires and the loud music and the this and that. And that the deputies come and this has happened to me. Well, that's not the kind of thing that we can do anything about. Has been the response. Now, the contract says that the deputies are authorized to enforce city ordinances. So that would be my next question. Are you authorized to enforce those kind of violations?
Regular deputies don't operate the same way as a contract deputy would. Contract deputies are contracted to enforce those city ordinances. If a regular beat deputy gets called out to that location, they can make a report. That report then goes to the city or to that contract called deputy. And then they send out either city inspector or however the process may go within the city. That's as far as taking care of that, that's on the regular beat deputy. That's their reach of taking care of that. But they shouldn't tell you anything like, we can't take care of it. What they should say is, well, ma'am, I'm going to try to take care of it to the best of my ability at the time. Then they document that and it gets forwarded to the correct people. Then it gets taken care of in that manner. Yes, ma'am.
About the training, the contract does call for training and the sheriff has the authority to be responsible for hiring, training, and assignment. How are officers trained, and how is it documented that they're trained, and what kind of training is that? Do they understand that?
The Lieutenant Starnes.
They do, and I say they should. As far as the field training, they go through the academy and they receive what we call A post, which is the minimum standards through the academy. And then when they come out to patrol, we do what's called field training over a period of time. And they have a certain curriculum that they have to abide by. And it's also a field training and evaluation program that we send them to see, because once you get trained at the academy, that's one thing, but we've got to see that you can actually professionally function in the job and deal with live people at the same time too. If not, we teach them to do so. As far as the contract, it is covered, but a lot of time there's so much information that's thrown at them within a short period of time. It may not be something that they've focused on. And like Sergeant Merchant said, what they should do is properly document it, and they couldn't get preached at anymore about documentation and how to do it, and then follow up with the contract deputy the following day. And if that doesn't happen, again, you know me personally, you can get in touch with me at any time. But if something like that happens, just make sure that you follow up, and then make sure you go up the chain of command and copy him, or get on the app like the sheriff mentioned, and make sure that you're getting your proper coverage. And I guarantee you'll hear back from somebody, and we'll call them. We'll get to the bottom of it. Yes, sure. Go ahead.
He answered your question all the way through. I'm gonna get to the nitty-gritty, and this is for the people that's in line as well. As far as for contract, if that's where I think you're trying to get to. As far as for the contract deputies that we use, as one transitions in, is that responsibility who's other than the sergeant that we have here. We have an office for them at City Hall. It has our ordinance, and it has a book. They can go in it and look through it. But normally what happens is, as each deputy progresses up in rank, position, promotions out to different departments, there is someone left there that can help the other contract cars that come in to give them a clear understanding what's expected of the contract deputy. And that's how it's supposed to go. And we're going to continuously keep that pushing and keep that moving, because there is a big difference between what the deputy do as far as being a contract deputy than just being a deputy. So to make sure that they get the information that's granted, I myself have created a jump drive that have all of our ordinances on it. It's provided to them, it's given to them. All they have to do is plug it in the computer, look it up. If they don't know, they come out to the house, hey, they can go back to their car, pop it in, take a look at it, and they'll know the procedure. But as far as for the people who are not contracted to the city, we'll work on a way to where it's communicated that they should know exactly how Lieutenant and the Sergeant said what the steps are. So if we can get that cleared up, and since you know, and the people that's viewing online know, you can't honestly sit up and say, because it was said today, that's not what you're supposed to tell me. Shouldn't it go this way? But again, watch how you do it as well, because some of us will be like, hey, you want to tell me how to do my job? But because it's been put out there as public information, now it's been said, this is the reason why we want you to come to these meetings. People are viewing it online, people here. Tell people to come and get this information. That was valuable, what they just said. But did you really get the understanding of the difference between the contract deputy and a normal deputy? That's what we have to get pushed in and understood. See, yeah.
Too, I just met with Mayor Henderson probably about 6 months ago too, and required all the contract deputies, and I will with Mayor Scott as well too, to sit down at the table and understand exactly what Mayor Henderson expected of all of them, and to make sure what they understood that what they were responsible for as well too, with all the contracts. And we'll do the same thing with them too once Mayor Scott gets settled in and make sure that we're all on the same page, because we're working together and we want to stay together as a family. There's a lot of training, believe me.
I was gonna just in the sake of time, if you wanna just, because they got a few more people wanna ask questions. Because I know you'll be at the next meeting. I said, I know you'll be at the next meeting. No, you will, because Ms. Paransky is always engaged and she's always involved. I just wanna give other people some time to ask the questions. Okay, thank you. So next is Mr. Brock. Is it Mr. Brock?
No, you said it right.
Oh, Brock, okay, go ahead.
Actually, I wasn't sure about if I have any questions or not. Because, I'm satisfied with what Mayor Scott is doing right now. And it takes baby steps to get where we need to be. And even though we're located in the county, there's a lot we want, but we can't get all that in one day or 1 week. So we're working with Mayor Scott and Public Safety Director Weatherly. I Sheriff Mark that way over there. We're just taking baby steps to get where we need. A lot of work has been there, so we're in good stand. We're working on it.
So next, I'm sorry, did I miss something? I apologize. Miss Casper, Arlene, and Robert.
First of all, I would like to say thank you for always being here tonight. I've spoken with many of you on the phone, Lieutenant Starnes just last night. I think for us, one of the biggest problems that we seem to have is response time seems to be a huge issue for us. We live on Sun Valley, and we had a house behind us that was an extreme, we had a lot of issues. I think we've kind of plowed through some of that. Still have a few issues, and probably, I think we've left a couple of messages for Antonio that may not have been returned. I'm not sure. We might need to make sure we have the right phone number. But just a couple of nights ago, it was midnight, Sunday night, and there was at minimum 60 rounds of gunfire that came off from a house that's basically diagonal to us. Very disturbing. But what's frustrating and what I'm struggling with the most is trying to understand if we make that call, I feel as if, even though I feel under attack, I don't feel as if it's appropriate for me to dial 911, okay? So I called the 325-1450 number. Lieutenant Starnes and I discussed this the other night. Sometimes it takes 10 and 15 minutes for that call to go out. I don't know if, as a civilian, if that's because they're so backed up on other stuff that they are giving them time before they go respond, or if it is taking that long for them to put their information together and then get it out. The other night, I know that there were at least 4 other callers, and someone called with a specific address of where this gunfire was coming from. It was still a good 10 or 15 minutes before we ever heard the call go out to dispatch anyone to that location. And so I think for me, just trying to understand what it is, A, that I should expect, and B, should I be calling 911? Should I continue to call the 325-1450? I don't know what to do. But frustration-wise, we're up to here because it is such a constant. We had a couple of months where things got quiet, but these past few weeks, it's just been off the hook again. And this morning, I think it was like 8:30 this morning, we're having gunfire coming from the same location again. You know, I call in, I never hear anything dispatched to it. You know, and I've had some people say to me, hey, you know, well, you may not hear everything over that, and, you know, and I understand that. I want to understand this process better. And if somebody can help me with that, I'm sure we would all be much happier not hearing from the Scottsboro all the time.
I can answer a little bit of what you. Your call that call got dispatched twice because there were so many other calls that came in. The first call, the car that came over there, that they went, probably the call that you heard 10 minutes later, because you look at the response time, and the deputy that I spoke to you about was already at the scene where I told you he was talking to somebody else. But another car got sent over because of that, and that's probably the delayed call. Also, if you're listening through a scanner or an app or something like that, there is a delay in those. So there is sometime a 1 to 2 minute delay in those scanners and apps sometime. We also work off of what's called a trunking system, and Lee Gaither can explain more, but we don't have a channel. We have, I think it's like 20 channels that overlap each other. So if you're listening for your call to go out, you may not hear it because something else may it'll catch that channel, and you're going to hear that channel talking, and your call is going to kind of come in behind it, so you're actually not going to hear it actually get dispatched if you're listening through a scanner or an app sometimes. So that's what happened. It's technology. He knows a whole lot more about it than I do. I just know how that system works. It's getting sent, and believe. I honestly, one of the fewest things that I get complaints on is time to calls. These guys go in the sergeants are great about he's listening to his radio right now to make sure that somebody speaks up for that call and that call goes out appropriately. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, and we deal with 100,000 calls a year plus. So you're going to get one lost, but it's usually not going to be a priority call. It's like I told you last night. If you're hearing shots fired, that's 911. Don't.
I hope y'all all know that.
They've got a system for that. That's 911. And you weren't the only one. There were like 4 or 5 people that called in on that. So I'm not going to discourage you from calling 911 on that. But if it's, a barking dog or something like that, 1450 would probably be more appropriate. But if it's something where we need to be out there because you don't know if those shots are being fired at you or somebody else, or if there's just somebody out there just shooting in the air. But I want to make sure that that we're getting there as quickly as possible. Okay? You explain that.
We had an issue with house.
Right.
Shooting on their back porch. We're watching, we've got it on our video cameras. Officer comes out of our house, well, I can't tell who's actually doing it, even though you can see them clearly. But the bottom line was, we waited 2 to get someone there. And we are watching them shoot rounds on the deck behind our house. And so, we're just, that's our biggest thing. We're just frustrated with that, and that's why we're here.
Call again, or you got
But from now on,
Call
911, I will call 911. Thank you.
Next, Ms. White.
Oh, well, she pretty much, my question was related to the gunshot, but I was gonna ask it in a different way. Are we as citizens, what, are we supposed to call a report of gunshots? And I think he answered.
I'm gonna reiterate on that. The biggest issue that I've seen within the last 6 months, for some odd reason, people have this thing where it's not important enough to call 911. They'll see it, and we won't know anything about it until the next day. I've had situations where right off of Magnolia, off of Old Springville Road, somebody came over there throughout the night and shot the little cul-de-sac up. They were shooting at each other. Those people involved did not live there. They shot the place up. Several people there came outside that next morning while we were there with the evidence tech marking off shell cases in the roadway. There was over 70 shell casings picked up that day. Everybody wanted to come out and tell us what happened, what they saw, but nobody called 911 that night. And that's the biggest issue that we're having. Just like Director Weatherly said, communication. If no one called 911 and reported it, it's just like it did not happen. Sometimes we need you guys to help us help you. That's the biggest issue that we're having. I don't know where it became troublesome for us as civil servants to serve the community. That's our job. That's what we get paid to do. I press that issue with everybody I talk to out here in Centerpoint. I've been out here since 2008. I press that issue with everybody. It's not a problem with you calling us. It's not an issue with you calling us. The issue is when you don't call. Nothing's going to get fixed. Nothing's going to change unless you call us. That's our job. That's our purpose here. It's to serve you guys. I don't know why. I really honestly don't know why. I wish I knew where it started, why it started. I kind of hate it did, because that's the main complaint I get. Oh, well, people are shooting around here all the time. Did you call it in when you heard it? No, I didn't. Why not? Well, I didn't want to bother you. That's not a bother. That's my job. When these guys are covered up, any of these deputies out here that work from 2 to 10 and tell you, I'm that supervisor, I don't sit at a desk. If they covered up, I'm answering calls and writing reports myself. I'm going to make sure they do their job. Just as Lieutenant Starnes said, if y'all have an issue with a deputy, if y'all can't reach him, you can reach me. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'm here from 2 to 10. Saturday and Sunday, I'm here from 6 to 2. You can call down there any time of the day to that substation, leave a message. I promise you, I'm going to call you back.
So let's do this. So how about we fix that problem? With the citizens that are here now, our citizens that are online, the ones that are listening by phone, the ones that listen to everybody else by someone else's phone, let's charge them to own their city. So hey, if someone is shooting, call. If someone is doing something wrong, call. Once again, it doesn't matter what happened previous. Hey, we call this, pick up that phone. You got a cell phone, Cricket Wireless, FirstNet, Verizon, it doesn't matter. Pick up the phone. And I'm also going to now start pushing that app. Every meeting I go to, everything I sit in, use the app. I don't know what all this do. I'm glad I heard about it. I'm finna tear that app up, figuring out what it can do. So I can relay it back to you all at the next meeting. Is this. So if we find a flaw, we can say, hey, and then let us take a picture and send it to you to where you can see it for yourself. Everyone has, what is it, Ring?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has Nest. Everyone has
Vivid.
Neighbor,
Yep.
Neighborhood,
ADT.
all that stuff. Take those videos, send them in. If you heard it, call it. Don't be afraid. I've had people actually tell me, well, if I call, the person who did it gonna know when they call. How you know that? Get that mindset going from your head. Make that call. Didn't mean to chime in, but we have to start reminding the citizens, this is your city. Everyone is up here is a civil servant, voted in, whatever the case may be, but Centerpoint belongs to you. You have a house here. You have grass. You cut your grass. You clean your lawn. I don't come and cut it. But if you don't cut it, I have to come and tell you to cut your grass, right? Why should I have to tell you to take care of your own home? It's the same thing. Centerpoint belongs to you. Call. Before the night is over, I'm hoping that all the different leaders from the different communities get together and talk, exchange numbers. Tell more people to come to the next meeting. Don't just watch it online. Be here, voice. But once again, Sergeant Murphy said, y'all have his number. I just won't say blow his phone up, but I still will say blow his phone up. But again, make that phone call. Like he said, if you don't call, are owning it. Don't be afraid of nobody. Don't do nothing. We have Sheriff Mark Petway and his staff here to push everybody forward. But you can't step lightly. If you make that step, make it firm, make it strong. So that way we'll know what's going on. Then next time you come to the meeting, it's not to say we're fed up. It's to say, I seen what you did. You got it taken care of. Let's move on to the next thing. Every meeting shouldn't always be a problem. Should be a solution too. Okay? So.
Are you saying that there would be the citizens implement the call, there would be feedback? Because you said there are quite a few gunshots. Will we on your app, through that app, will there be feedback? Because how would we know that it's been looked at, resolved? It's obviously not resolved. We hear it quite frequently.
If a deputy comes out, you don't have to speak with that deputy. But what I'm going to reiterate to these deputies, make sure that the dispatch calls that person back, because you can remain anonymous, but your information is going to still be in the call. We don't have to give your information to whoever the suspect is that's shooting. I can make sure that those deputies get the dispatcher to call you back and tell you what the resolve is from that call. I make it a habit of doing that myself, especially if somebody just calls just for a patrol in the area, and say a concerned neighbor might see a contractor for Spectrum cable out. A lot of times they don't have that on their vehicles, but we get calls saying that, oh, well, somebody's at my neighbor's house and I know they're not supposed to be there. And when we get there, it may be Spectrum. It may be somebody that just bought the property or something like that. I make sure I get dispatch to call that person back so they won't be sitting there worrying and say, well, hey, that was a contractor or there's somebody who bought that property. So that way they don't have to worry. And you can always call back yourself and ask what was the result of the deputy coming out. We don't have to give your information. We don't have to. And you don't have to speak with a deputy. A lot of people call a lot of the times, and that's what they do. They don't want to see a deputy. They don't want to speak with a deputy because they're scared that the neighbor or the person that's shooting that lives next door to them or behind them is going to see a deputy on their front porch.
A lot of households are getting video cameras Can you all do you have the manpower to deal with?
If you
Video
have, if you have
camera?
opportunity to get that off of your app on your phone or whatever, send that clip to your email, we can get that and we can try to work with our property crimes department or our detectives to try to find out what's going on. I had just that issue going on right before Christmas where a woman that lives in the Grayson Valley area had someone steal a package off her porch. Her doorbell caught awesome footage of it. She used the app, which I'm a part of, called Next Door. And she put that clip of that video on there. The neighbors got together and they saw him walking down the street holding her packages. By the end of the night before my shift ended, I had her packages back on her front porch. And the reason being because I'm part of that app and I saw it pop up. Along with the sheriff department app, that app is great as well. Because what it does is you put your address in, it groups you in with people that live in your area.
Yeah, I have that app.
You guys can get to know each other through that. Even if you don't want to go and knock on your neighbor's door and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, use that app. You can get to know each other that way. And it's awesome. Like I said, I ended up going and got everything that guy stole off her front porch. You kind of find out the little fella was 13. His mom had no idea what he had done. As soon as we walked up on the porch and knocked on the door, the paper from the packages he opened up was blowing from the side of the house because he left the boxes open sitting on the side of the house in the yard. So again, like I said, as a community, if you guys can communicate with each other along with communicating with us, it'll work out awesome. That's the best way we can get this thing going and we all work together. That's the only way it's gonna work out better that way. I get that. A lot of times I'm sitting checking off reports or something. I hear the gunshots, and I get on the radio immediately, and I tell them as soon as that call comes in where those shots are fired, that let me know. Myself and several other deputies from the shift, we go and we look. But a lot of times that call never comes in. It never comes in. So we just have to kind of spread out and go to where we thought the shots were coming from. Because right before New Year's, almost every day I work from 2 to 10, right as nightfall, the gunshot started. And like you said, I can tell the difference between a gunshot and fireworks. It's 2 totally different, distinct sounds. But if you hear it, if you see it, call us. If you think it's an emergency, use 911. You don't have to use the 325-1450 number. Dial 911. That's the quickest response time you're going to be able to get. Because a lot of times with 325-1450, it's going to ring and ring and ring. Then somebody will answer it. With the 911, it's going to be immediate.
I just want to step up and speak up a little bit to what Dane's got to say on some of these issues too. We all don't know, my name's Lee Gates, I'm Chief Operations Officer at Jefferson County 911. I'm gonna start attending these meetings after I heard about it today. If you feel it's an emergency, dial 911. Like Sergeant Merchant said, if you dial 325-1450, when the 911 calls come into our center, they come into a queue. 911 calls take higher priority. So if you dial 325-1450, it's going to be on a lower. Like you said, we can send you a text message. We'll ask you permission to take over your phone. We'll send you a text. We'll take over the camera of your phone. We can watch that live in the 911 center, what's going on, plus it's recorded. By the end of this week, it will be implemented. We'll be pushing that out. So that's something else that y'all can have that we'll have as a tool to help the sheriff's office. We can send that to them. We can stream that to them, their NDTs, the fire service, their the tablets in the apparatus. If it's a structure fire, somebody, we can do that. But a lot of people don't know your 911 center now is in Centerpoint. We're at the Jefferson County Multi-Services building. So I can't reiterate enough. If you feel it's an emergency, dial 911 because that's going to get the highest priority. One of the things you were talking about, like Rusty addressed, the trunking system, there are multiple channels on the trunking system, and that just rotates through, and that's to help break up some of the calls and encrypt certain things. So you might not catch all of that. But I can assure you, if you dial 911, those calls are being answered at the top priority. So get that out to your neighbors. You know, don't hesitate to call 911. That's what my people are paid to do. That's what we're there for 24/7. That is true. In last year, we've also implemented text to 911. If you're in a situation where you don't feel comfortable that you can talk, you can text to 911. All you do is just put 911 in your phone, hit it. We've got a designated screen in our center. It starts going off. We can answer you back. And if you're not sure where your 911 is going to go, you can test call. Believe it or not, depending on your cell coverage, you could go anywhere in Jefferson County. There's 18 PSAPs in Jefferson County. And depending on what cell service you hit, what tower you hit, it's going to be where you're going to go. An example I can use is in our 911 center in the courthouse. When we were doing text to 911, the news was there. We did test calls just to show it for them. We dial 911, my personnel would answer. I can move 10 feet in my building and dial 911 and get Birmingham 911. It just depends on your carrier and what tower you hit. So, you know, always make sure you got the right area, but you could go to the wrong center. But now with Jefferson County 911, Birmingham 911, Hoover 911, and Homewood 911, we don't actually have to dial the number and transfer you to somebody. Now we can do a one button transfer. It's called CAD to CAD. So everything that we put in automatically goes to them. Everything they put in automatically goes to us. So you don't have to repeat yourself. The information just automatically comes through. We see each other's CADs. We know what calls are going on. So there's lots of new technology coming out. But the big thing, like I said, in the next week will be where we can take over your camera. If you've got something that you want us to see, we can watch it live. It's recorded. It'll stay recorded. It'll be archived. And like I said, we'll be able to push that out to the deputies, fire service. So there's a lot of new technology coming along with 911.
We have one more question. Actually, we have two. A citizen sent me a question because forwarded me a question because she wasn't able to be here. And it had something to do along the lines that you said about the different Ring cameras and the different apps. I think she sent me some information about this thing called virtual cities, where we encourage residents to get the Ring app so we can kind of have that streamlined along the city. And she was wondering, do you all think that's a good idea as far as targeting crime in our area?
I personally own the ADT alarm system that has the camera doorbell. It also came along with 2 extra cameras that I have on my house. They're awesome. You can set up the sensitivity for the motion and all of that. You can put them on the rear entry to the house, side entry, or whatever. I encourage anybody, if that's what you want to do, it's money well spent. It gives you more comfortability of being away from home, going to work in the mornings and things like that. Me, myself, I'm really not too much worried about it, but I can understand somebody that has had their home broken into before, or may have kids coming home from school, things of that nature. I say it's money well spent. I think it is a terrific idea for people to get that. And like I said, you can set up the sensitivity on it. If somebody comes even close to the doorbell, it's going to automatically start ringing. It's going to send you an email. It'll call your phone, or it'll either send you a text message and notify you that somebody's on your property. So yes, that's a terrific idea.
Mr. Burks, question?
Question is, how many shot spots do we have in this area? And
Mr. Burns, you're a Birmingham police officer. You know we don't have any shot spotters out here in the city of in the city of Centerport. Now you know that's Birmingham that has that. Birmingham, no, there's none out here in Center Point. Now, if you want to purchase some, now if you all want to purchase some, we don't have a problem with that. But right now there's none in the city of Center Point. And you know that you're a Birmingham officer. Okay. Now, the deputies that work here that are in Center Point are contract deputies. If you want to contract for more deputies, we're always looking to make sure that we can provide more deputies for your city. And we would love to have more deputies out here in the city of Center Point, especially the size of Center Point. We would love to have more deputies out here. But there's a PSA I would like to give out dealing with especially those elderly citizens that live out here. There are some scams that are going on right now. We want you to be aware of the scams. One of them is a Medicaid scam. Someone may come to your door telling you they're from Medicaid. Do not entertain them. Do not let them in. If you know someone elderly, if you have someone elderly in your family, tell them, do not let someone in that's come to the door saying that they're from Medicaid or Medicare. Also, there's another one saying that they're coming to your door now saying that, hey, we want to make sure that you have the vaccine for COVID-19. Do not entertain them either. They are scams. Do not allow them into your residence. Please pass that information on to let people know that those are scams that are happening right now within your community. So we do not want anyone in this community to be a target of a scam. And please, ma'am, stay over so we can make sure you have all your questions answered. Every question that you have, we want to make sure that you leave here tonight. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We want to make sure that you leave here tonight with every question that you have answered, okay? And we don't want you to feel like you came out here for nothing. We want to make sure that you have every question that you have answered, okay? Thank you. I just want to say thank you to everybody that came out here tonight. We're glad that you're very supportive of your city, and we love to engage with you. I received a question from Ms. Cosper online just a few days ago when I was riding a horse. And I guess she didn't think I knew that. I guess you didn't think I knew that. But yes, I remember you asking about, can you come ride through here? Gotcha. But yes, we do have an app, and we want to make sure that you're engaged. Don't use our app for 911 now. If there's something important, something's going on as an emergency, call 911. I think you have a question back there, ma'am. The community policing? Oh, I think he was asking about increased patrols. I think he was asking about how could they get increased deputies within the city of Center Point.
I can answer that question for you. Any deputy can patrol that area. If you want more patrol, call and request that. Tell them you would like a patrol request in your area. Give them your address or your street name. You can tell them for however long you want that patrol. It will be automatically generated in our computer system, and it will come up on the screen every day. If you want it for 2 weeks, it's going to come up in their computer system for 2 weeks. If you want it for ongoing for a month, it's going to pop up on that computer screen every day, the same time for a whole month.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question.
And I'm gonna elaborate on that a little bit more. Both of them valid questions. I think you just mean as far as presence, not necessarily the numbers. Way ahead of you, I got you. Deputy Frederick, you step up for a quick second, please. This is one of our contract deputies. I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, just including the ride through neighborhoods, what you do. Just give a quick synopsis of a daily routine of what you do for the city, not outside of when you get called, but just when you ride in to be a Central Point deputy contract. Because I get that question a lot as well. Hey, why we don't see cars riding through our community? Well, they probably do. Now, if you have one of them cameras that everyone's just talking about that can capture cars going, keep them cameras on, and then take yourself a full day, take a week, see how many times you can see a deputy ride through. He just gave you more valid information as far as for requesting deputies to ride through your area. But again, the vast size of the city, this is one of our contractors. I want him to just give you a quick rundown of from the time he goes 1041 to the time he goes 1041, I'm sorry, he clocks in. And then 1042, he clocks out.
Good evening, everyone. So, I mean, basically, on top of being contract cars, we still have our normal duties to respond to calls and stuff like that in the area. So, as we come in, we try to ride through communities as much as possible, checking out businesses, checking in on the owners, checking in on them to see how they're doing, see if there's anything that we can do to help them, as well as answering calls and riding through apartment complexes and throughout the community as well. So, I mean, we try as much as possible to get to through all the areas, but it's just not enough time in a day to ride through every community every day and answer all those calls at the same time.
I appreciate. Oh, let's move it up. I appreciate that.
I'm sorry. Mr. Woodford, yes, this is our last question we'll take. I don't want to leave without him asking.
Okay, we're gonna get you in, Ms. Whitford, and I apologize, but I just want to make sure that kind of answers, but I want to make sure this is clear as well. We have backup deputies, normal deputies that ride through here. If you feel as if the presence on your block is not adequate, call it in. If you feel like, hey, I get up at 5:30 in the morning to go to work, it's still dark, or it gets dark at 5 o'clock now, compared to when time changed, hey, call and say, I just like to see a deputy on the block, on the corner. You can request that. You can request that, and hopefully, one of our contract guys here, they ride out, they sit there. Another way for you to get to know the people for your area. Okay? Sorry about that.
Real quick, I know we have block cameras in the city, they've been successful. It is 2021 now, technology. I know ShotSpotter, like Officer Burks mentioned, is a great investment if it's doable in the city's budget. And if the city could, or the sheriff's department could provide the city with the information on ShotSpotter on what the success rate is, on the response to the spot where the calls are made or the shots are heard, and it's going to be investment. Second part of that question of technology is, I'm a delivery driver, so I'm out quite a bit. I know Trustville put up some cameras, now they do, but there was a break on Highway 11, and they captured the whole entire camera from the cameras they put up in the city. So technology, I believe, will be a good law enforcement tool as well as Center Point, because with the deputies, even more deputies, even though police department, officers still can't be everywhere every time to catch everything. So technology, I believe, will be a good tool as well.
You're absolutely correct. And eventually we will have the technology to where something happens, it will populate our whole screen. We have a Mac Center and it works directly with 911. It will populate our whole screen at the Mac Center. We can see everything that's going on within that area. So if someone is in that area, they will be immediately spotted. That information will be given out to the deputies. They will be able to go directly to wherever that person is located. They have information on the vehicle, or if a person's walking, like he described a few minutes ago, someone's walking through the neighborhood. It will populate that whole screen to where they will see everything, and those deputies will be able to respond there quickly. And we would love to have ShotSpotter. ShotSpotter will be able to do the same thing. It'll populate the whole screen, and deputies will be able to respond with a lot more information because of having a ShotSpotter in those areas. So that technology is great. We are increasing in what we're doing with technology, and it's helping us a lot here, solve crimes and prevent crimes right here in the city of Center Point.
Another ShotSpotter, you have to have community involvement as well. People have to be willing to have this technology in place on their property. I agree with that. So I would be just say something the city does go forward and give it, I'll be glad to have it on my property. I have a corner house.
I'm calling you first thing in the morning. But guess what though? We have a total of maybe almost, I believe, 121 cameras in the city. Did you know that? Of those cameras, they're all used in different means and different ways. Here's the issue. I'm an advocate for cameras. I love cameras. I do photography and video myself. But until I press that shutter, I capture what happens after the fact. I don't want people to get so reliable on we gonna have cameras to capture everything compared to where we can be proactive instead of being reactive. Now, the shot spotter is great. Here's the issue with that. He said it was over 70 shells that was located somewhere and not a single person called. If a person ain't gonna call, what's the use of having the shot spotter? Not saying it's bad, but I'm trying to get you to understand where we need to slowly grow to get there. We got to change that mindset of first, we need to start communicating and calling when those things happen. So that way, when we do get to the level, we can have a shot spotter. Now we're gonna have the proper backup we need of deputies being there. Citizens will now know, hey, when this happened, how the rounds of ranks and everything go. People complain when we just put the normal cameras out. My phone was being tore up because, hey, what's this big black thing that's being hung up here? And y'all finna invade my privacy, y'all finna invade this. No, we trying to make it communities safer. But before we can get to that realm, we have to give a clear understanding to people to where they'll know what's going on. The only way you know what's going on, I know you come to the meetings. The only way others would know, called you this morning, your voicemail ain't set up, but it's the communication. But the communication, come to these meetings, go to your local meetings. I know we're, pressed for time, but I can't stress this enough. Don't let this be the only meeting you watch online or come to. After these meetings, we want you all to be able to have your own individual meetings as well. So where you can, keep the communication line going. But if you're willing to go that far, I'm gonna step with you. I'll give you a call. We can see what the steps we need to take to make that happen. Because guess what? Once again, this is your city. If you can voice that opinion, hey, we can sit down, go out here, look for grants, look for whatever. I don't know. But at least you'll know the effort has been put into finding out what needs to be done.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and close. I want to just want to really thank you all, Sheriff Petway, his staff, Chief Coleman, Director Weatherly, and more importantly, the citizens, because that's truly what it's about. I think this is just the first conversation of many that we will have. And I think this is a good first step of getting our city back on the right track. I think a lot of information that we all didn't know before, we're leaving with a lot of knowledge about what it looks like on the law enforcement side and how we can make our cities better. So hopefully I will see more residents involved next month when we have our meeting in February. And hopefully Sheriff Petway, I'm so sorry. Sheriff Petway, maybe somebody from his staff can come out next month so we can go back, revisit some of the things that we talked about today, kind of come up with solutions and just try to see if any changes have been made. I know a lot of information that I didn't know that I can push out to citizens now. While I was sitting there, I did go on and I shared the app to a lot of the Centerpoint community groups. So I shared that to them, and I'm gonna go back and write something about, make sure they log on to that and the information that we can provide, because it takes communication, it takes transparency. I don't know everything, and I'll be the first to say I don't know, but I'm really good at going to the people that do have that knowledge to bring to you all. So again, thank you. This has been really informative, and I just appreciate you all for coming.